Hello, I am Zinfogel. Today we are covering April is special custom seasonals. Fortunately, these banners are still running, so hopefully you can make a more informed decision now that we know what's dropping on May. Well then, let's get started. First up, we have Custom Lillie and Polteageist, a seasonal ghost type support. Lillie is quite good, which is fortunate. Supports are in more demand than ever with the release of Legendary Gauntlet. If I had to be reductive, I would say Lillie combines the better parts of Custom Jasmine and Palentine's Bee. Lillie is a special support. She raises a special attack, a special defense, and crit, just like Custom Jasmine. But Lillie has Astonish. Astonish is an incredible move in Pokémon Masters. It's a spammy attack with a 30% chance to flinch. And Lillie's full grid has Aggravation 1 to double the chance. Flinch allows you to stagger the enemy, prevent damage, and reach a sync move that much sooner. Flinch is particularly bugged in Legendary Gauntlet, because almost every Legendary Arena is susceptible to flinch spam. Given the fact that Lillie is stuck with utility moves, her value lies in her capacity to bolster her teammates. Lillie has no offensive presence to speak of, so her partners have to carry the pace of a fight. It's a similar situation to Ingo. Role compression is the name of the game for sync pairs like this. And Lillie has great passives. Focus Group 9 guarantees a crit buff when Lillie attacks with Astonish. Sounds good for Balabilla climbing, but Balabilla is dead, so whatever. Team Fist Bump 1 is a 20% chance of restoring regeneration tier health when Lillie attacks. And Team Trash Tank 9 guarantees that same healing but when Lillie receives damage. Lillie is motivated to tank. She is well-rounded defensively, although her preferred matchup goes against special foes. Lillie's trainer move is pretty good. It's X special attack call with X regional tagged on top. But notice it says it applies one additional effect at random. The effects in question were data mined long ago. Lillie can set up screens, status protection, etc. Lillie's field effects often end up helping you. However, these field effects exacerbate Lillie's dependency on Adrenaline 1 as a Lokia skill to maintain a sync countdown. Team Trash Tank 9 ruins Quackus already, but Lillie's field effects often wane off at times where enemies are allowed to requeue. Let's talk about Lillie's 5% chance of casting Ghost Zone. The chance is rare, but if Lillie manages to fish that, she gives Ghost-type strikers a sizable damage bonus. It's great when you can pull that off, but I wouldn't consider Lillie a Ghost Zone setter per se. You can grind for Ghost Zone, but maybe it'll never proc in 20 minutes of resets. Actually, I have a spicy take. Lillie's Ghost Zone is usually detrimental. Lillie doesn't exclusively support Ghost-type sync pairs. In standard contexts, Ghost Zone is typically useless, and it takes up the opportunity of casting another field effect. If anything, Ghost Zone benefits the enemy if they have Ghost-type moves. Furthermore, Lillie can support special zone setters like Signatus Cyrus and Anniversary Skyla, but Lillie has this random chance of fucking up their zones for no good reason. You have to be conscious about that when team building. I wouldn't call Lillie's trainer move inconsistent. It guarantees +2 special attack and regeneration. She just has a chance for bonuses that may or may not aid you. You don't play Lillie for her bonuses. They are nice, but you focus at the core of her buffing kit. Which brings me to my first issue with Lillie. Her base buffing kit is slow ramping. Per turn, she can buff either +2 special attack, +2 special defense, or +1 crit. You probably won't feel this issue in Legendary Gauntlet, but in Champion Stadium I specifically play for precinct clears, so it matters to me. However, Lillie's Grid eliminates this issue. She has Trainer Move all ramped at 1 and Critical Squad at 1. With these styles, Lillie buffs +6 special attack and +2 crit in 2 turns, which is much more convincing. Lillie can complete crit on the 3rd turn with a focus group proc, so a fully invested Lillie actually outpaces Custom Jasmine. Lillie is one of those supports who changes dramatically with her full grid. It's like looking at a completely different sync pair. Relative to Custom Jasmine, Jasmine buffs special defense at the same time she distributes offensive buffs, so she can play with hyper-aggressive options in 2K Master Mode. However, Lillie has a potion to mitigate the damage after her first buffing cycle. Custom Jasmine also buffs +3 crit in 2 turns, while Lillie buffs +2 crit. Most strikers in general prefer +3 crit as soon as possible, but that's being nitpicky, it's not an issue. What Lillie is specifically good at is enabling Harry. Lycia is the biggest winner of Custom Lillie. Lycia can draw aggro while Lillie buffs, and then Lillie activates Harry tree for her. Lycia can even defog Ghost Zone to maintain her sync multiplier if Lillie happens to proc that. Then there is the other special Harry users like Blue and Pidgeot, Lysander, but literally any special striker benefits from Lillie's presence. I think Lillie is pretty good. At base, she can carry any Legendary Gauntlet team. Even at 1-5, she hastens the setup of any special striker to some degree. 3-5 Lillie has the hyper offense angle. Lillie's lack of offense is not a concern. She makes up for that with her setup speed, and she compresses enough sustainability tools to keep her teammates alive. Astonish is the cherry on top because it's potent crowd control. Lillie is also decent gauge support. Lillie's dual strike cohesion is a little concerning because she doesn't raise speed directly, but a 1-bar spam with AoE regeneration goes a long way at stalling gauge. Lillie can also randomly cast Gauge Acceleration, and she can generate speed with Post-Haste 4 on her 1-5 grid. That's a 50% chance of raising +2 speed when hit. Polteageist's speed is okay, so Lillie's gauge generation capabilities are enough for lineups that aren't overly ambitious. Honestly, Lillie's only true flaw is that she cannot buff attack, so she's not a global support. But Lillie is the kind of investment you will never regret making. Lillie's roll compression is phenomenal. It's just, I have Custom Jasmine, that's why I am not hype about Lillie per se. I feel fine with my current tools. 1-5 Lillie has Post-Haste 4, Lithe, and Astonish MGR3, which is honestly excellent for 1-5 grids in recent memory. 2-5 has MPRs, as well as Potion Master Healer 1. Stalwart and Interference Immunity help Lillie tank consistently. Here we have a new passive called Static Cling 2. It's a 30% chance to punish an attacking move with paralysis, similar to Static in the main series games. After re-examining every Eggmon for the compendium, I realized that paralysis has amazing value in Legendary Gauntlet. You can use it to shoot down Healthy Advantage and Robust Physique against Cobalion, Yuxi, and Tornadus. So Lillie counters those specific legendary arenas. I wouldn't use Static Cling to enable Paralysis Synergy because it's not proactive, but Lillie can do that if you really want her to. The full grid has Trainer Move All Ramped at 1 and Critical Squad 1. These tiles are huge for Lillie and they change her dynamics entirely. Astonish Aggravation 1 improves her flinch locking capabilities. X Special Defense All Barricade Bodies 1 allows Lillie to maximize special defense in 2 turns, but given the energy cost, I don't think it's worth it. Revenge Boost 9 is whatever. Team Trash Tank 9 already ruins squad queues, but Revenge Boost is not a proactive means of generating gauge. I would rather use Post Haste 4. There is also extra Potion NPR 2 and Master Healer 1 tiles Lillie can use. Lastly, there is Trainer Move Propulsion 4, which allows Lillie to fast ramp. I am in cahoots with fast ramping lately, but given the randomness, I don't think it's worth it unless your strategy specifically fishes for the ramp. At that point, I would rather give Lillie Head Start 1 as a lucky skill for consistent ramping. Lillie needs to be paired with auxiliary ramping anyway. Unless you are insane and give Lillie Head Start 1 and proc Propulsion 4 twice to shave off a round of combat. If you are into that, by all means, feel free. 3-5 Lillie buffs really fast and you should know what you're doing. Now, all of Lillie's tools are quite good, but the problem is that she suffers from Palentine's B syndrome. Lillie's grid is really expensive. You have to pick and choose what you want depending on the situation. If you want Lillie to enable hyper offense, I would focus on her buffing tiles and Astonish. When played right, the stage will die too quickly for Potion to matter. In Legendary Gauntlet, what you can do instead is tile Potion NPRs to keep the party alive. Lillie can maintain Astonish Aggravation 1 by sacrificing Master Healer. But remember, Lillie adds AoE regeneration, so her recovery is kind of overkill already. If you don't care for Astonish at all, you can sack those tiles to turn Polteageist into a more consistent tank. There isn't much you can do with Lillie's grid. The energy costs eat away at her opportunities. But the point is that full investment gives her access to some really good tools. Lillie is a great pool. You can get a lot of value out of her. Up next, we have Custom Sonia and Tsareena, a seasonal grass-type striker. So, I feel the same way about Sonia as I do about the New Year's Volner. She is good, technically the current best striker of her type, but this is not a Sigma Zulu Samin situation where Sonia is raw power improves her pool value. Grass is bloated with excellent options, both free-to-play and in the general pool, and they all have a similar power level. When Grassity Rain drops, I might sing a different tune, but for now, I don't think Sonia is something special per se. Now then, Sonia suffers from Anniversary Steven syndrome. She has a low attack stat, counterbalanced with a boatload of multipliers. I don't want to write a litany on this subject again, but fixing Sonia is the same as fixing Blue and Arcanine. You do it with the theme skills. You want to pair Sonia with other grass types to boost her raw attack stat. Sonia's first innate multiplier is Hit the Gas 5, just like Diantha and Emmet. It grants Sonia a 50% multiplier in exchange for an extra gauge of cost. But the raw power you get from Hit the Gas 5 is totally worth it. Sonia also has Power Flux 9 and Sync Power Flux. These multipliers are derived from how full the move gauge is when you click your move. Optimally, you want to wait for the gauge to be full before acting with Sonia. And there is a sizable damage difference depending on whether you play Sonia with 4 bars or 6 bars in Champion Stadium. Power Flux has a bit of a learning curve. Hit the Gas 5 makes Sonia's moves naturally expensive, so I wouldn't worry about Power Flux 9 too much. This methodology is far more important for Sync Power Flux. The syncing difference from 1 bar to 6 bars is immense, as I have come to learn when playing Single Suit Misty. With all that said, Sonia is very gauge hungry. Her speed stat is average, so you want a lot of gauge to maintain both Hit the Gas and Power Flux. Sonia's moves are Razor Leaf and Power Whip. Both of these have accuracy issues. Razor Leaf offers an AoE angle, but it's a similar situation to the Antha. I never click Dazzling Gleam unless I have to. You cannot even compare Razor Leaf's damage to Power Whip. Sonia's optimal team compositions should always account for spamming Power Whip. That said, Sonia's full grid has Defense Crush 9. Razor Leaf can be fun for AoE defense debuffs. Sonia is a self-sufficient striker. She has X attack with Berserker 1 on her grid, so she can reach plus 6 attack in 2 turns. Her trainer move maximizes crit, it fixes Razor Leaf and Power Whip accuracy, and it also grants a physical move up next stack. This is a perfect buffing kit. Sonia almost always wants to click her trainer move for accuracy, even when backed by Hilbert support. Fortunately, the physical move up next stack makes up for that lost turn in buffing. And I also love the name for this trainer move. Anyway, Sonia is very simple. There are no intricacies to her setup. She maximizes stats and kills stuff. So, I was lucky enough to pull a 1-5 Sonia through a daily. She did not impress me. I mean, at 1-5, what do you expect? She doesn't have access to all her tools. But like, an OG Emmet is a fucking beast at 1-5. You give him a 6-star EX support buff from Ingo, and Emmet is doing 5k damage with a Stone Edge. Sonia is low attack stat hampers her performance. If there were a grassy terrain setter, 1-5 Sonia would be set, but it's really hard for her to handle off-type. 1-5 Sonia breaks grass weak stages, but in the broader metagame, Sonia depends on a dual strike partner to carry her weight. Ultimately, in my experience, Sonia's biggest issue is gauge. You have to supply speed buffs and perhaps gauge acceleration too. At 1-5, Sonia has nothing. The move accuracy tiles are irrelevant when Sonia buffs plus 2 accuracy. 2-5 has Locked on Sync 3. This multiplier activates when Sonia has any form of accuracy buffs, so it's free. 2-5 Sonia also has Insult to Injury. This is a very abusive multiplier because it's derived from defense debuffs. Defense debuffs enhance Sonia's damage already. A good cohesive partner for 2-5 Sonia is Single Suit Leaf. She activates grass type skills and she debuffs defense AoE. If Leaf has Defense Crush 2 as a lucky skill, all the better. You can round out core with Fall Kaylin for attack, speed, and defensive buffs. Sonia also has Speeding Zone 3, which is huge for her gauge, but there isn't much of a point to running Sonia in Sun unless she's at 3-5. A fully gridded Sonia has Charging Zone 3 and Solar Flare 5. DNA is basically begging you to pair Sonia with Single Suit Erika. They not only have the grass theme skill cohesion, they both play for Sun. And Sonia is technically more efficient at clearing grass weak content because she has the 6-star EX AoE nuke. And now that Signal Morty is a thing, he lets Sonia spam Power Whip uninterrupted even at 6 bars. Although Sonia would have to spend extra turns buffing with X attack. Speaking of, Sonia also has X attack Berserker 1 to eliminate the need for any offensive support. This complements Haymaker and Furious Brawn very nicely. Sonia has 2 for 2 for utility. 2 for 2 grants a 30% chance to proc free move next when attacking. This style is a little too expensive for Sonia to use though. And down here we have Sonia's most controversial passive, Defense Crush 9. My friends had a huge argument about this. It was really funny. So, Defense Crush 9 gives Sonia a bruiser roll. She can debuff the enemy to make subsequent attacks stronger. Defense Crush 9 synergizes well with Power Flux and Dual Strike team compositions, because Sonia wants to attack first. However, Defense Crush 9 is fairly expensive, and it deprives Sonia from using all her multipliers, especially in nuking modes. The deal with Sonia is that she is already equipped with multipliers. She has Hit the Gas 5, Power Flux 9, and Sync Power Flux. So the addition of more multipliers gets diluted in that. A single defense debuff actually gives you similar value to Furious Brawn or Charging Sun 3. What Defense Crush 9 does is that it enhances the power of your following attacks as well as your sync. If you consider Signal Sud Erika Dual Strike, Solar Blade will also deal more damage. That allows you to catch up from the damage Sonia initially loses if she's not running Furious Brawn or Charging Sun 3. So it's not like by running Defense Crush 9, Sonia is weaker. Defense Crush 9 has similar initial value to any of Sonia's alternate multipliers, even Locked on Sync. You use Razor Leaf once for the AoE debuff and Defense Crush 9 catches up. But Defense Crush 9 keeps scaling the more Sonia debuffs, so much so that Charging Sun 3 is actually suboptimal, regardless of the build you are using. I will probably never 3-5 Sonia, but Defense Crush 9 harmonizes in the context of her kit and her team compositions. It's absolutely worth exploring. If you have the 6-star EX 3-5 Sonia, she is very efficient at clearing Grassweak content. With a 6-bar Sync Power Flux and Solar Flare 5, she nukes about as hard as Sinasul Leon under Dragon Zone. When the inevitable Grassy Terrain unit happens, her nuke will go stupid. Sonia is fully self-sufficient, so she can afford the team slots for Sun and Grassy Terrain. But for now, that's a pipe dream. Just know that on type, Sonia wants a Sunsetter to delete stages. In other contexts, however, such as off-type or DPS, Sonia best plays with Signal Sud Erika and Defense Crush 9. I know this is going to look janky, but hear me out. If Sonia wants to run Haymaker, a multiplier, and Defense Crush 9, this is the only path impossible. This mode plays best with a fast attack buffer such as Hilbert. If you use Razor Leaf once for the AoE defense debuff, Sonia catches up with Locked on Sync. And the more Sonia power whips center, the more she strengthens her following power whips, Erika is Solar Blades, and her next sync. I know I am suggesting Signal Sud Erika as a partner while not grabbing some passives right next to her, but the fact of the matter is that Defense Crush 9 has better long-term value. I run pre-sync options in 2K Master Mode all the time, but most players feel safer running HP options. So Defense Crush 9 works better in those matches. Furthermore, if you want to run a full-on DPS Sonia, she's better off skipping Charging Zone 3. You can grab all of Defense Crush 9, Furious Brawn, and Charging Zone 3 on a DPS build, but by sticking around Sonia's Defense Crush 9 corner, she gains better long-term damage. Insult to Injury is generally a dogshit multiplier for 3-5 Sonia, but because you can grab this attack plus 30 tile, which Charging Zone 3 won't let you do, Sonia scales harder. The Defense Crush 9 debacle is a little confusing, but it's the kind of thing that makes more sense in practice. So yeah, I don't have any strong opinions about Sonia. She is a good striker, not exceptional. When Grass City Rain drops, it's also going to benefit every other grass-type striker around Sonia, so Up next, we have Custom Ingo and Accelgor, a seasonal bug-type tech. Ingo heralds the introduction of Bug Zone. Bug Zone alone skyrockets Ingo's value, because he enables a unique playstyle. The problem is that Ingo feels less synergistic than his zone contemporaries. He has a bias for physical offense, so there are archetypes where Ingo excels at, and there are others where you bring him purely for Bug Zone, and that's it. Ingo has great stats, he tanks decently at 6-star EX potential. The standout is Accelgor's speed. Not the fastest Pokémon in the game, but it's up there. And a big part of Ingo's skill is gauge maintenance, thanks in large part to Accelgor's speed stat. Ingo's moves are Bug Shift, Quick Attack, and Infestation. Quick Attack is a quick move in this game, much like Shadow Sneak. But because it's a normal type move turned bug type, it reaches a higher base power ceiling. Quick Attack chunks surprisingly hard. The issue here is that 1-5 Ingo has limited uses for Quick Attack. At 2-5 he gains a Quick Attack NPR 3, but that's all he gets through his entire grid. And once Ingo runs out of Quick Attack MP, he loses all steam. Ingo is unique amongst the zone setters because he is very much forced to run Dual Strike. You better have someone else who can take advantage of Bug Zone, because besides Quick Attack, Ingo is stuck with Infestation. Infestation inflicts trap 100% of the time. Ingo's innate tech multiplier is Trap and Sync. I would have preferred a Bug Zone based multiplier because Trap and Sync forces an additional turn of setup, but oh well. Ingo reliably enables stationary target and fall fighting. Offensively, however, Infestation is atrocious. It has lower base power than moves like Brutal Swing. Like, Viola can bump Infestation by plus 36 base power and she has a stationary target 10, and then it barely works. Ingo has less than half of those multipliers. Suffice to say, Ingo resorts to Infestation to conserve Quick Attack MP. Now, Ingo's training move is strange. It raises the party's evasion and accuracy by +1, and it buffs Ingo's own evasion by +2. Ingo has Blind Spot and Bob and Weave, so he easily maximizes those. My issue with this training move is that Ingo cannot buff his offense. I don't remember the last time this has happened to a tech. Remember what I said about Ingo is bias for physical offense? Part of the reason is that Ingo requires offensive babysitting. He is dependent on supports like Hop or Hilbert if he wants to strike. And where does that leave special bug-type strikers? Unless you are talking Alder, who maximizes a special attack in one turn and he can leech off crit buffs, it's either you support Ingo and a physical bug-type striker at the same time, or you ignore Ingo and support a special striker instead. Ingo with just +3 crit and neutral attack still chips fairly hard on their box zone, and you can also compromise with mixed supports like Faulkner, Lyra or Kiawe. But Ingo suffers from team building incongruencies. That said, Ingo is a rare accuracy buffer. He can support bug strikers like Gosma or 1-5 Alder, and he can also combat dumb evasion gimmicks. Evasion buffs are extraordinarily rare as well. Currently, Ingo is the only bug type with evasion multipliers. Boxy and Beedrill don't really count because he maximizes evasion with his own trainer move and requires no help setting up a blind spot. More so, Ingo's evasion buffs can help your tank dodge damage, but you know how probability works. Some matches you just never dodge even at +6 evasion. Now, Ingo also has Team Viral Haste 9. It raises the party's speed when the trainer or Pokémon uses status moves. In the context of Ingo's kid, when he uses Bugwish or his trainer move, he buffs speed by +1. Ingo compresses speed support. Paired with Accelgor is excellent speed stat, and the fact that Quick Attack is a quick move that doesn't consume gauges, you can pair Ingo with Alder and spam Hyper Beam continuously. Furthermore, Ingo can set up ramming speed and inertia. The current Boxy is the only bug type with such multipliers. Ingo can bump ramming speed for him. But Boxy is not exactly a relevant striker, even with the box on boost. Lastly, Ingo has Defense Crush 9. When he attacks, he guarantees a defense debuff. Again, Ingo displaying his bias for physical offense. Ingo's debuffs are slow ramping. It's more like a nice little bonus to nudge you into bruising with Ingo first, followed by your striker. Infestation also procs Defense Crush. You can use that on Ingo's dead turns to capitalize from the defense debuffs with Quick Attack later on. My issue with Ingo is that I cannot point at him and say he enables specific multipliers for bug types. Like with Anniversary Skyla, I can concisely say she enables Harry 5 Blue and Harry 2 Lysander, where Ingo uniquely enables Stationary Target 10 Viola and Ramming Speed Boxy. Yay! Lucas has this very same problem, but he makes up for it with his self-sufficiency and consistent DPS. Ingo's lack of synergies are more pronounced because his DPS is dependent on supports. If he could kickstart multipliers for his bug-type brethren, then it would broaden his utility. So, Ingo is very much built to support his twin. Emmet is a physical bug-type striker, so he appreciates Defense Crush 9. Ingo also buffs evasion and accuracy to enhance Emmet's Rising Tide. Alder will be the second biggest winner of Ingo. Boxon lets Alder catch up with modern striking standards. Typically, you would pair this core with Hilbert. Ingo needs the offensive support, and Alder can get rolling with just Hilbert's crit buffs because his trainer move maximizes special attack immediately. Ingo, meanwhile, can buff Alder's accuracy so he can skip Hyper Beam accuracy tiles. You can also replace Hilbert with Phoebe to do some power reserves plus taunt shenanigans, or with Champion Iris to play for Alder's Devastation Nuke. Alder is fully self-sufficient, so he has the firepower to carry a team composition like that. Ingo also has a good cohesion with Gosma, mostly as a byproduct of the fact that Ingo synergizes with Emmet. Ingo can fix pin missile accuracy, and he bumps Gosma's damage with Defense Crush. Despite Gosma routinely gets memed on for being bad, Gosma plus Ingo can off-type 2K Master Mode no problem. Similarly, Ingo has a good cohesion with Leech Life users. Both Lana and New Year's Lillie appreciate Ingo's evasion buffs and Defense Crush. Besides that, Ingo doesn't do anything significant. Borg and Lusamine benefit from Ingo's Box Zone, but nothing else. Box Zone Borg can paralyze on Smarty Pants rather than distribute energy into Solar Flare. You can argue Lunge Lusamine works okay with Defense Crush, but her Sync is special. That's where most of her damage stems from, and Bug Boss is stronger than Lunge anyway. If anything, I would argue that Gladion has a better place as a Ingo partner. As far as cute things go, Ingo can uniquely enable Fall Fighting 3, Marnie, and Grimmsnarl, but Tech Lickitung is arguably better than Ingo at that function, so just focus on Box Zone. 1-5 Ingo has nothing. 2-5 has Quick Attack MPR 3, which is very good, especially in Legendary Gauntlet. Bursting grants Sure Crit upon entry. The problem is that you cannot transfer Sure Crit to Ingo's Nook. He has to spend Bursting into Infestation to activate Trap and Sync. Unless you bring some auxiliary trap user and have Ingo go Tremove, Bugwish. Insect Acceleration 2 improves move gauge under Box Zone. This kind of passive is phenomenal for zone setters like Signasus Cyrus, but Ingo generates so much speed, it's probably overkill. Stationary Target 3, although conditional, is a nice damage bonus for Quick Attack. And Poké Trap 2 improves Ingo's utility against targets with little to no trap mitigation. Fully gridded Ingo has the delete button. Ingo nukes with Blind Spot and Relentless. Ingo maximizes Blind Spot with his turn move, so that and Bob and Weave are free. Relentless is meant to be played off Defense Crush 9, and there is a Quick Attack at Defense Crush 9, so Ingo can bump debuffs even faster. But realistically, Ingo doesn't have time to set up a Relentless in a standard encounter. You have to pair him with a defense debuffer. Tech Parasect is most optimal. It has a Screech and activates bug type skills, but in doing so, you lose the offensive pressure of a bug striker. I recommend skipping Relentless. At current, it's just not worth the effort. You can also bump Ingo's Nuke with a super effective up next thanks to Trainer Move Super Preparation 9, but Ingo nukes really hard with just a Blind Spot and Box Zone anyway. Now, the rest of Ingo's grid is awkward because it attempts to fix Ingo with some offensive self-sufficiency. Mad Strength 9 guarantees an attack buff when Ingo attacks. Quick Attack Follow Through 9 grants Sure Crit. The idea is that Ingo can skip crit support when backed by Bursting, but there are plenty of crit supports in the metagame, especially with Aaron's release. Follow Through 9 has its uses, but it's a little janky. It more so helps Ingo Sure Crit his Sync if he uses Quick Attack beforehand. Now, there are a couple ways to play a fully gridded Ingo. You either nuke with him, or you play him like a 1-5 Ingo, but with the benefit of multipliers. If I had a 3-5 Ingo, I would play him like this. Unless we're talking Legendary Gauntlet, 6-star EX Striker nukes clear content more efficiently anyway. Bob and Weave and Stationary Target 3 significantly improve Ingo's Quick Attack DPS, and Quick Attack Defense Crush 9 helps with faster debuffs. this mode remains dependent on offensive support, but thankfully Ingo is a physical striker, so it's nothing Hope cannot fix. Just slap them with custom Emmet, Gosma or Alder, or even Boxy, and you are good to go. If you want Ingo to nuke, it's for a strong finishing blow. Ingo doesn't need Relentless. In fact, I discourage it in exchange for quick attack consistency. Follow through 9 gives you versatility. Maybe you want to run a support like Elio, but if you don't care about that, then you can run Defense Crush 9. However, if you really want to, Ingo could run Relentless when paired with auxiliary defense debuffs, or in Legendary Gauntlet, where you have the isolated target and Ingo can realistically reach -6 defense. But even then, you can make an argument for dropping Relentless in favor of Bugwish and PR2. So, Ingo is good, but the metagame doesn't agree with his utility. If there were more Bug-type strikers with ramming speed or bob and weave, I would be all on board with our boy. But if I was exercising caution with Palentine's Marnie, who is an objectively better unit, Ingo's situation is dire. Last but not least, we have Emmet and Escavalier, a seasonal Bug-type striker. Emmet is disgusting. He is easily the best Bug-type striker at current. He's more like a top-tier striker, right around the caliber of Signature Red. But before we even start, I want to address a question right away. Do you need to pull Ingo to improve Emmet? No. This is a similar situation to OG Ingo and Emmet. Yes, Ingo was built specifically to enable his twin. Emmet without Sand superiority is not nearly as oppressive. But he will be okay because Emmet's raw output is disgusting, especially on type. It's the exact same deal here. Emmet under Bug Zone is something else, but he overkills Bug Weak stages without Bug Zone anyway. The reason Emmet is so good is because he was blessed with Rising Tide, arguably the best sync multiplier in the game. The more you buff your stats, the better the nuke. It is a very simple conditional. Most lineups try to maximize stats already. Rising Tide caps at plus 18 buffs. This multiplier is different because it reaches a higher base power ceiling than standard sync multipliers, and Emmet's kit revolves around boosting Rising Tide. Take a naturally good attack stat with a strong forward move, and the possibility of a Bug Zone, and Emmet meets all the criteria that marks a top tier striker. Add on to the fact that physical offense is easier to support than special offense. Oof, this guy is really good. Well then, Emmet has a good stat spread. He's fairly tanky for a striker, so you will never have to worry about his survival. Emmet is a little slow, but Emmet's trainer move adds gauge acceleration just because, so it doesn't matter. Megahorn is thankfully 4 bars, so it reaches a higher base power ceiling. If it were 3 bars, Emmet wouldn't be nearly as strong as he is. Megahorn has accuracy issues, but Emmet's trainer move buffs plus 2 accuracy, so it doesn't matter. Now, Emmet is similar to Summer Marnie in that he buffs with status moves rather than trainer moves. You have to account for the gauge status moves consume, but it's no biggie. Speaking of Summer Marnie, we verified that Double Buffer doesn't enhance Emmet's status buffs. Double Buffer's description is confusing, but it states that only Marnie's status moves double in efficiency. If she had a status move like coaching, then she would provide AoE buffs. Sword Dance buffs +2 attack, and Iron Defense buffs +2 defense. Emmet's first passive is Critical Affliction 9, which buffs +1 crit when Escavalier uses a status move and when Emmet uses his trainer move. Mighty Affliction 2 grants a 30% chance for a physical move next stack when Escavalier uses status moves. It's no mighty command, but still a nice bonus. Lastly, Emmet's trainer move buffs +2 accuracy. It adds gauge acceleration, super effective up next, and a physical move up next stack. The idea is that Emmet wants to spam Sword Dance on his first cycle to maximize his offense, and on the third turn he can use his trainer move to complete crit and gain super effective up next to boost his nuke. And with the gauge acceleration he can go on a killing spree with Megahorn post-sync. Emmet admittedly has issues maxing out Rising Tide, and if he doesn't run Sword Dance Berserker 1, he cannot maximize attack in 3 turns. Ideally, you pair Emmet with attack buffers who also buff lots of stats. I know it's a meme at this point because I mention Anniversary Steven on literally every video, but it's not my fault, he's a good point of reference. The playstyle here is similar to Anniversary Steven. You can use Lisa, Hop, BP Surge, Torchic, Sawyer. Amongst the gachas, you can run Hilbert, Elio, Lillie, Lyra, Faulkner, Folkailing, Palentine's B. The point is reaching the 18 buffs Rising Tide cap at all costs while maximizing Emmet's attack. I don't have much to say about Emmet. He is dummy strong, he is self-sufficient. If his trainer move added regeneration, he would be set for life. Just watch out for hit waves. Emmet performs spectacularly. He kind of wants 3-5 to handle off-type, but 1-5 Emmet under Boxon handles off-type comfortably anyway. 1-5 Emmet has a bunch of defensive passives. Headstrong and Unbending are useful in Legendary Gauntlet to deter stat drops and maintain Rising Tide, although Emmet can repeat buffs with Sword Dance and Iron Defense anyway. 2-5 has a sync multiplier in Bronze Sync 2. You activate it when you buff attack at all, so it's a free multiplier. Emmet also gains Iron Defense Shielded Strikes 1 to help him maximize defense in 2 uses of Iron Defense. It may help bump Rising Tide depending on team structure. Vigilance is a good defensive passive in Legendary Gauntlet because the more difficult Legendary Arenas have AoE short-range attacks. Sharp Entry 1 could help in hyper-offense contexts with Ingo or Classic Red support. If you want Escavalier to go stupid with Megahorn, the +1 crit buff helps complete crit. The full grid has the delete button as per usual. Top Sync 3 activates when Emmet buffs defense at all. Pair it with the Bronze Sync and the Sinking Tiles, and Emmet can rush through sides without Box Zone. But Rising Tide is carrying the bulk of Emmet's nuke. I don't think I sold the Rising Tide hard enough. That passive totally improves Emmet and it makes him who he is. Tough Cookie is Emmet is only move multiplier. It's derived from defense buffs. I would focus on Emmet's nuke anyway, but you probably want this for off-type so Emmet can manhandle center after deleting sides with his nuke. Sword Dance Berserker 1 allows Emmet to maximize attack in 2 Sword Dance uses, but it's typically too expensive to grab. Then there is Sync Freebie, probably overkill accounting for Emmet's gauge acceleration. Emmet also has a bunch of charging infliction tiles. The idea is that while he spams status moves, he can recharge gauge to accommodate for dual strike. But Emmet's nuke is enough. He doesn't need to dual strike. Furthermore, Emmet's best partner is Custom Ingo, who only needs to use Bugwish once, and a quick attack is a quick move. It's gauge free. If you want to delete the stages, just grab all the sinking tiles and this random attack plus 30 tile. That should more than suffice. Otherwise, you sacrifice Nuke for Tough Cookie. This grid is not optimal for DPS, but I favor defensive passives because this is the kind of build you run in Legendary Gauntlet or some such. But yeah, this is a simple striker grid. There isn't much to do here. Playing Rising Tide is the same as playing Good Form. Once you adjust, you will be shocked with the results. You can be cute and use Boxon or Lear to assist Emmet, but he is as straightforward as he gets. Maximize stats, delete sides, and finish off center in a couple Megahorns. Emmet is fantastic. But well, we are finally done with the April data mine on May 1st. It's a running gag at this point. Now I gotta work on the grids released last month, which were Marley, Roxanne, and Kahili. But then we can move on to the May data mine. So yeah, thank you for watching, take care, and I hope to see you another time.